Heads up, tonight we'll be asking the experts your questions about coronavirus live. Following our 6 o'clock newscast, all of the stations in Springfield are coming together for a special town hall meeting. We'll be asking doctors, hospital leaders, business leaders, unemployment offices, city and county leaders, as well as the health department, the questions all of you have been asking us here at the station.
This is a special report. Welcome to the KY3 COVID-19 Town Hall.
From KY3 News, I'm Ethan Forhetz. We have brought together several leaders tonight to provide local perspective on how the coronavirus is affecting us on a daily basis. And boy, is it affecting us on a daily basis. Tammy Dennis says there's fear of workers breathing on your food or mishandling the food before it gets to you. What's the response to that?
Well, sure. That's a great question, and I understand what it's rooted in. You've got to understand that we deal with sanitation in our food service industry, 365 days a year. We work with them on proper food handling precautions.
Karen is asking us, what about churches who have service in the parking lot or would like to? We've seen that in communities across the country. It's like a drive-in. They drive up, everybody stays in their cars, and the pastor's talking over a FM radio signal.
So I know that that's been a popular movement, and I know that we're headed into a big weekend, but we're still recommending against that.
We just got this question from Tyler. What about leaving a job due to the risk of the virus? If you have a heart condition, something like that. So it would be dangerous, in your view, to be at work still, even though it's an essential business. Do you qualify for benefits at that point?
Yeah, unfortunately, under the CARES Act, you will not qualify for benefits. The way the federal legislation is designed is an individual, to no fault of their own, loses their job, or hours are reduced, or they're separated from employment, then the CARES Act will kick in. The pandemic unemployment insurance will kick in, as Sally mentioned. Unfortunately, though, if you voluntarily leave a job, you are unable to take advantage of those benefits.
Our town hall on the virus worked so well last week that we are doing it again because there are still a lot of questions.
COVID-19 in the Ozarks. KY3 is on your side to answer your questions. Join us for our second town hall covering your concerns about unemployment, business loans, and how to stay safe at home. Our second COVID-19 special town hall, tonight at 6:30 on KY3.
Encouraging people, if it's not essential for you to be out, there's absolutely no reason for you to be out.
Chief, if that's the only situation where you actually issued citations, what was it about that situation that led to the citations?
So I think that's been publicized in a number of different ways, and I would say that the officers that responded to that complaint handled it appropriately, took action that they thought was appropriate, and those folks that were issued the citations, the appropriate venue for arguing their case is certainly within court, not in the court of public opinion, but in the municipal court of Springfield, and I would encourage them to do that if they think it was inappropriate.
This is a special report. Welcome to the KY3 COVID-19 Town Hall.
Hey everybody, thanks for being here once again for our third now virtual town hall where we talk to experts about what's happening locally with the coronavirus. And Dr. Troutman, if you would, just kind of briefly give us an update on where Cox Hospital is on the number of cases you're seeing now, how many people you're treating. Take us through the ventilator situation, and then when do you think the peak is going to arrive here in the Ozarks?
Our prevalence in our community is pretty stable and very much consistent with what we talked about last week. Probably about the same number of cases per day, anywhere from 0 to 4 cases coming in.
Clay, we heard your news conference this afternoon where you were talking about you went out to a couple of local stores and you were noticing people wearing masks improperly. Cindy Lubbert would like to know what was wrong with the way they were wearing masks, and how do lay people like us know how to wear a mask properly?
So we probably need to put some guidance out because, quite frankly, I was surprised. In a 30-minute period, just running in to get some essential items, I counted 15 people wearing masks the wrong way. I mean, to use PPE, Dr. Troutman and I'm sure Brent can tell you, it requires training. And people had a mask covering their mouth or only covering their nose or around their neck.
Should we be basically shutting down an economy which was doing very well based on models that aren't going to be right?
Right. So the models so what the good thing about models is you stop and you regroup. I use the analogy of your gas mileage in your car. If it's 20 miles per gallon, but you're driving uphill, you're going to have different gas mileage. When you get to the top of the hill, you can't use your uphill gas mileage to predict your downhill gas mileage. So hopefully we'll soon be on the downhill and we'll have different data points.
How important would you say hope of getting back to normal soon, is in helping these people deal with this crisis they're in?
We know that isolation and hopelessness and interpersonal loss all load on suicidal ideations and increased risk for suicide. The thing that we're not talking about in the media right now is the second public health crisis coming, and that's the second curve. And that's going to be an increased amount of mental health conditions and symptoms that our communities will, in fact, encounter.
I'll direct this next question to Sally Payne, the Interim Director of Workforce Development in Springfield, and it's about unemployment, which is it's a really sad byproduct of this disease, is that so many people who were gainfully employed 3 weeks ago are now suddenly out of a job. And their problems are right now, they can't get through to the unemployment hotline. They can't go there in person because we're not doing that. So what do you say to people who are dealing with a major loss of a job right now?
That is really, really difficult right now, not only with the health concerns, but you're right, the economic impact is greatly concerning. The feds out of St. Louis reported that the unemployment rate could hit as high as 32% by the time this is over or we start coming back out of it. During the Great Depression, the unemployment rate was 24.9%. So that is concerning. Right now, Missouri has seen an increase in unemployment claims by 900%.
All right, before we get started, I got to promote, well, my pretty little mug there. We're on Facebook Live today on the KY3 Facebook page, 11 o'clock. Going to do a little weather school as the kids are out and trying to come up with stuff to do. We're going to talk about layers of the atmosphere.
In the forecast, we can kind of get an idea of how big the hail may be because of weather balloons, okay? So at the National Weather Service in Springfield and a whole bunch of places in the United States, there's a little instrument pack like this, and they attach it to a balloon, they fill it with hydrogen, and they let it go up, okay? So it takes measurements of the atmosphere, the temperature, the wind speed, the moisture, which is, in this case, the dew point.
So you need a jar with a lid and fill it, I would say, about a quarter to a halfway full of warm water. You also need a little bit of ice, so I gathered some ice here in my cup, and then aerosol hairspray. All right, so this is about how to make a thermometer, and these are the ingredients that you will need. So a marked index card, mark 70 degrees on there, and then when your house is 60 degrees, make sure you mark that on the card and see what the level is on the thermometer.
And so what happens is the rain falls out here. And so in these types of thunderstorms, they can live for a very long time because the airflow is up and out, and it never gets disrupted.
While your kids are at home, let the First Alert Weather Team be their guide to learning about our atmosphere with KY3's Virtual Weather School.
Literally, that's the air exploding. And so that shock wave is what you hear as thunder.
Join in on the KY3 News Facebook page weekdays at 2 p.m. as our meteorologists teach your children fun and exciting experiments they can do from home.
Once you see a good cloud form, all you're going to do is release your cloud. It's a really fun experiment.
KY3's Weather School Live, weekdays at 2 on Facebook.
A different blizzard that I dealt with in Fargo, this was my parking lot of my apartment. These drifts were almost to the second floor of my apartment building.
I have blue Jell-O, and I didn't do a very good job because it has all these little bubbles on the top. And then I also have my whipped cream. So we're going to make, essentially, the sky in a glass. So, and you guys can join this with me if you don't have all the ingredients on you right now. That's okay. I made the Jell-O this morning. I just made it according to the box directions. There we go. All right, so that is how you make a cloud in a cup, an edible cloud in a cup. And as you can see, it's just a fun little snack that you guys can make. You can describe the Jell-O. This is the atmosphere, and it's holding up the clouds, which is our whipped cream.
If we live in a second floor condo, should we leave to seek shelter or use a closet? I always tell people, if you live in a second, third, or an apartment complex that has higher stories, make friends with that person on the lowest level of your apartment. Make that your safety plan. Go knock on their door, say, hey, if there's a tornado warning, can I come down to your floor and seek sheltering?
You see the gentleman in the fatigues. Right above him is a bed, and that's where you always have a reserve pilot, and that's where he slept for most of the flight. I went back and looked at the data, and those waves were 110 feet high. And that's amazing because Hurricane Ivan, actually, the water was so rough that it moved all the underwater pipelines for the oil industry, and there was quite a bit of oil spilled during the hurricane.
And I think a good activity for today, for those of you that want a little project, a good activity for you this afternoon would be to draw a rainbow. Remember those 7 colors that we went through: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. So those are the 7 colors to a rainbow, and remember, red goes on top. So always start, the top of your arc starts with red. My daughter Bristol thinks that rainbows are magical. They are kind of magical.
It could take a few days, but there is a way. But after a few days, or even after a few hours, depending on how humid it is outside or how hot it is, actually today would be a good day for it, since we do have those temperatures in the 80s. But you will be able to actually see the entire water cycle process in this baggie, and you can always go back through this presentation and explain to your kids the different processes that go into the evaporation, condensation, precipitation process.
Back in class during COVID-19, KY3 On Your Side is inside your school, preparing your family with the facts, not fears.
If your kid typically rides the bus, listen up. The rules are changing.
We're breaking down every risk and precaution you need to know.
It will dispense those into the air to disinfect those.
This Monday night at 6:30, we're asking your questions to Springfield Schools Superintendent Dr. Jungman during a special Facebook town hall. KY3 is on your side for back to school.
Well, hey there. Thanks for joining us for this special KY3 Facebook Live. We're doing, as you know, a series of these discussions with some of the largest school districts in our area.
Kylie asks, what about the kids who don't have Wi-Fi and can't always make it to somewhere that does? And I guess because she's considering the virtual learning option.
Sure. So, Lisa, in our area, our demographic, we've got a couple different issues. We have areas that we pick up students at that you don't even have good cell phone coverage. So when we talk about buying hot sticks, Wi-Fi sticks.
So Susan wants to know, what are the plans to physically distance in the hallways in high school during that time?
Oh, well, I would like to have great news for you on that because, I just saw on Twitter and a couple things, some of the school districts that were coming back and, students taking pictures in the hallway and
right.
Some kids masked.
Some kids kissing.
Yeah, correct. So we still have the PDA rules in school.
Oh, okay.
Those didn't go away, but.
Taylor asks, and I want to just preface this by saying it's a little bit difficult to even ask this, but what if a teacher dies? What are the plans to help support students during this time? And obviously we know that that's rare that a younger person without any comorbidities would succumb to this, but what would you say to Taylor?
So Taylor, I would say that you have a great question. It's a concern for me and our administrative team. I don't know what to say if we lost a teacher or a student. It's a fact. We want to be here safely.
Right.
I don't want any of my friends to pass away from COVID.
Well, yes.
So what happens? We've got to have the procedures in place, our counselors, our administrators, our teachers. But we're gonna basically go to our students and say, okay, we know that your parents want school. You've told us you want school. This is going to be about personal responsibility. Help us help you to have school.
What is the plan for sports?
Well, our plan will align to MSHA. Our plan did not align to MSHA previously, and I'm just going to announce that. And all of my colleagues are like, oh my gosh, you should have said that. But if a family chose the online option, now while I think it's interesting that you would choose online for safety and then go, well, I want them to be involved in sports and interactions, whether it be football, softball. Okay, those don't really align. But locally, I believe that that's a family's choice.
Mhm.
And we were going to support however we could, allowing those students to participate in extracurricular events, whether that be band, marching band, speech debate, or athletics. Now,
this is a different experience.
KY3 is on your side, preparing you for back to school.
We will not do the incentives this year to come to school.
Teachers will be trained in virtual supports.
Getting new information from school leaders on what to expect.
We will be seating students with their family groups.
we're in the process of adding at least 3 additional positions.
Friday at 5:30, we're asking your questions to the Harrison School District on Facebook Live. KY3 is on your side for back to school.
This is the kids asking this question. Will grades count this year?
So the answer is yes. That is going to be one of the most substantial differences between the spring and now, is that we will have processes for collecting and grading and giving feedback on student work.
We understand the anxiety and the fear and the concern, because we share that as parents ourselves. My children are grown, but Mike and Garrett both have children in our school system. We want to make sure we do everything possible to keep every child and every staff member as safe as we can.
I want to get this on the record and set the record straight. How do I say Berryville? Because we have some folks who work in the KY3 newsroom. They are from Arkansas, and they insist, and I think that they're probably right, that it's Burville. It's Burville as opposed to Berryville, how some other people might say it. So you take me through it. How do you pronounce it?
Well, it's probably up for discussion, but I would pronounce it Berryville.
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 So it's kind of a hybrid there. I imagine there are some parents in this category where they would prefer to choose virtual learning from home, but they don't have the proper Wi-Fi connection, internet connection to make that function in real time as needed. What do you say to those parents? Is there an answer for them?
Yeah, I mean, that is a real problem, and it's a real challenge for us in Berryville. Berryville is very rural. We did some surveys back in the spring when all this kind of came about, and what we found is we have about 25% of our families, our students, that really don't have good internet connection or even cell phone connection as far as that goes. So we have set up some hotspots throughout the school district in the more rural areas. I believe right now we have 3. We've partnered with some local churches that have allowed us to use basically their parking lots.
KY3 is the place to be for back to school.
Is that up to the parents to just choose online if they don't feel comfortable?
Answered your questions on Facebook Live.
They don't want to bring their child to school, then yes, absolutely.
Showed you the safety measures.
Can you walk us through the cleaning process at the schools?
We're looking for some additional staff that will go through and sanitize the district.
In the classroom and on the bus.
Families are seated together, and I will have an assigned seat.
All of us are learning as we move forward.
KY3 is the place to be for back to school. This is a special KY3 Town Hall inside your school.
I know so many people, not just in Lebanon, but across the state and the country, have really missed having kids in school.
Between each route, we'll sanitize the bus and thoroughly clean it so that it's ready for the next group of students.
Thank you, Brad. Laura, how will you handle teacher absences? I know I've been wondering about this too. If a teacher gets sick, how do you set up with getting a substitute and testing and quarantining children in that specific class?
Right. Well, we partner with PenMac and contract out for our substitutes, and we're already preparing for a possible shortage for our substitutes in the classroom.
What we do know is that our community needs school, and communities like Lebanon and so many around Southwest Missouri, the community is the school's the heartbeat, and we need to be back in school. And
I don't want to say it's been stressful, but my hair was completely brown when we were back in.
Earlier you said things will be as normal as they can be. You're trying to move forward normally. Does that include band and choir? I suppose it does. And how exactly will the differences play out there?
Right, band and choir, from what we understand, that's really a tough spot there, because the projectile of someone singing, obviously the projectile of somebody playing an instrument.
Those kids who don't have quality internet, it's up to us to meet that need, and we feel like we've taken a big step in that direction.
Mr. Johnson, did you want to jump in there?
Yeah, I just wanted to add something to the funding side of it. One of the great things about our community is the support we receive from local businesses, churches, organizations, and we have received multiple offers to help out with everything from masks to school supplies. All of our younger grades are receiving all of their school supplies for free this year from a local donation.
The extended summer break is winding down now, sadly, and there are still lots of questions about how back to school is standing in many schools, and we are working to get you some answers. Tonight, our Inside Your School Facebook Town Hall series continues. We're asking your questions live on our KY3 Facebook page to some of the largest school districts in the Ozarks. Tonight, we talk to schools in Arkansas. At 5:30, Berryville schools, and then at 6:30, school leaders from the Mountain View District. You'll be able to post your questions under our post on the KY3 Facebook page, and we will pose those questions to these administrators. We're just minutes away now. This is a sneak peek of them. Hey there, getting ready to have that discussion. I'll be joining you in that room very soon, folks. Again, that's Berryville schools starting at 5:30 tonight on the KY3 Facebook page. I'll see you there.
Have you had time to collate those numbers, and do you have an idea? Can you tell us what parents want to do?
Yeah, I just got some updates this afternoon.
Okay.
We're still doing follow-ups with some parents that haven't had the chance to respond, but over 23,000 of our about 24,500 parents have shared with us their desire.
We have been working diligently to ensure that kids have access to the classes that they would regularly, but we simply are limited by some of the courses that we can allow or offer just because of the quality that we're pushing out virtually.
The good news is in SPS, we've been doing virtual education for quite some time, going back to SPS Online. And then we turned that into the launch program where we not only serve SPS kids, but we serve students from 290 districts across the state.
Right. And we had another question too, just wondering about the online courses. How do they sign up for those?
Okay, a survey or a registration type form went out yesterday. And they can go online, they can look on our website, and there is a link, and they have until Friday, the 7th, I believe that's Friday, to sign up.
Let's just start with a question. What are we going to do if this goes all the way into fall? And at the time, everybody's like, wow, that's not going to happen. There's no way that's going to go into the fall. Well, here we are. And thank goodness that our leadership team and our administrators, we started thinking proactively. What would we need to do if we need to limit the number of people into our school? Or what would we do if we need to provide more education virtually? And so we came up with a plan, and that plan had five different stages, 5 different settings in it. Our first and primary stage that we wanted to make sure is we wanted to go to school 5 days a week.
Do you need cleaning supplies or extra masks that they can contribute?
I will be honest with you, we have some great relationships with our vendors when it comes to cleaning supplies, hand sanitation, room sanitizers, equipment. We are set and ready to go.
If we were to open, we would be at what we would call the yellow phase. There are 4 phases. The lowest one is green, and then we have yellow, then orange, and then red.
Tiffany wants to know, what about vaccines? Since WIC and certain services have been closed, several of us are behind on the required vaccines for children for school.
Well, the real question comes in, because we have restrictions we have to follow as a public school district as well in requiring those vaccines. The real question is the Department of Health and Senior Services, are they lifting those requirements for schools and vaccines as the school year starts? And I don't know the answer to that.
What's that going to be like, getting on the bus for these kids?
Well, Mr. Moreland brought up masks, but we're gonna ask all our riders to wear masks. We will have some extras on each bus in case a student happens to forget theirs at the house, and then we'll collect those at the end of the ride and wash those. And we have them each individually ziplocked.
What about testing for kids who think they may have symptoms? They show up in the morning, and then by lunchtime they think they have a fever, or they're having some symptoms. What do you do in those instances?
So we have created some isolation rooms within our nursing offices. So we would obviously isolate that student, and we would call the parent.
Sherry on Facebook is asking, if a student comes down with coronavirus, will you waive the attendance policy, and I would expand that to even the people around that student who may have to quarantine.
So absolutely, you know, and we're not even talking about attendance policy at this point. And actually that's being removed from our handbooks for this year, just for the fact that it doesn't make sense.
School districts in Missouri, Southwest Missouri, there's a lot of great school districts. Specifically for us, Cassville's a great school district. We've got a strong community with strong beliefs. Don't lose faith in the end of the story. We can do this. We can do this.